I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Advance voting is underway this Friday night. The lineups on the first day as the Liberals try to maintain momentum in the polls, the strategy they're playing up.
Who will stand up to President Trump?
The Conservatives promise to sack the ban on single-use plastics.
Plastic straws, checkout bags, food containers.
And where Pierre Poilievre stands on his pledge to fire the Bank of Canada's governor. Ultimatum, why the U.S. could pass on the Ukraine-Russia peace talks.
So this is important, but there are a lot of other really important things going on.
And home improvement. Why contractors say now might be the time to renovate.
Global National reporting tonight.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. With just 10 days to go until Election Day, Canadians aren't wasting time. Many are taking advantage of the long weekend to cast their ballot early. Advance voting got underway across the country today, and it didn't take long for lines to form outside polling stations shortly after opening this morning. The early vote runs through Monday. Meanwhile, party leaders were back on the campaign trail today after trading political blows during last night's English debate in Montreal. The final stretch of the campaign is crucial for the Liberals as they work to maintain their lead in the polls and keep the focus on U.S. President Donald Trump's threats as a defining election issue. David Aiken is following their campaign. David, what's the strategy for the Liberals in these final days?
Well, Nitu, the Liberals know that they do better if Donald Trump is the ballot question in this election, and so they need to keep Trump front and center in this campaign. And so for that final push towards the finish line, to seal the deal and bring home a fourth consecutive Liberal term, Mark Carney headed straight to the border.
Tonight, chilling new details about the FSU suspect. One day after the alleged gunman opened fire on campus, chilling too, we speak with classmates who say he expressed white supremacist views. What we're learning about his past. Plus, we speak with a survivor, a grad student still hospitalized tonight who says playing dead likely saved her life.
I heard him reload. So I knew I needed to stay dead.
The surprise meeting in El Salvador, the Maryland senator sitting down with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man at the center of the president's deportation battle. The fallout tonight as the Trump administration prepares more deportation flights. The dangerous spring storms impacting millions. Violent hail, flooding, and at least one tornado, and the worst could still be ahead. Our Richard Engel inside Iran as new nuclear talks are set to kick off between the U.S. and Iran. Rebuilding Los Angeles months after the devastating wildfires, what communities there are facing and learning from others hit hard by fires. Are we really alone? A stunning discovery in the new clues scientists say could hint at life on a distant planet. Caught on camera vandalizing Teslas. One man's destructive streak targeting the cars. And there is good news tonight. We'll take you to the star-studded Los Angeles party that will have you looking up.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. A wounded victim of yesterday's mass shooting at Florida State University is offering a chilling account of how she survived the deadly attack, hearing the gunman reload behind her amid the chaos and the critical choice she made to play dead. Today inside the student union, the belongings of students and staff who fled shots and the carnage left where they were. The shock turning to mourning on the FSU campus today were memorials for the two people who died or forming. 6 other apparently random victims were injured in the shooting. Witnesses today describing the sounds of gunfire and the cries of people as they desperately ran for cover. Also today, we have learned more about the 20-year-old suspected shooter recovering from his own wounds tonight, the stepson of a sheriff's deputy. Phoenix Eichner, according to 2 former classmates, had been known to hold white supremacist views, though a specific motive for the attack remains unclear. Authorities tonight saying Eichner could be charged with first-degree murder. Priya Schrader has late new details for us.
I wouldn't say waved off. I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is want to talk. I hope they're wanting to talk. It's going to be very good for them if they do.
Because Israel playing a huge role, and they've already shown how much damage they can do to Iran. Next round of talks between the U.S. and Iran are tomorrow in Rome. As President Trump says, he is in no rush to attack the country. He wants to first see if they can make some goals when it comes to peace talks. So here are the stakes. What can they say they share their interests? Both want to avoid war, I guess. No regime change. We don't want to change regimes. They're not looking to overthrow the Ayatollah unless the people rise up and do that. Possible economic cooperation. I don't see that happening, but who knows? Preference for diplomacy. On the other side of cooperation is additional sanctions and going after third-party sanctions like China, who buys 90% of Iran's oil. These are some of the nuclear sites. This is the one experts say is where they really got to focus on, and it might be the hardest of hard targets. How close is Iran to getting a nuclear weapon? They need 7 days to get one. Look what they get in a month. Look at 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. There is the utter definition of urgency right now to act, and something's got to come out of this. Is there an urgency on Iranian side? Here to discuss this is retired four-star general, Fox News senior strategic analyst, chairman for the Institute of Study of War, General Jack Keane. General, you didn't like the tone of the first round of talks in Oman between the U.S. and Iran. Why?
Well, because the President of the United States is unequivocal in what he's saying. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And he's issued them an ultimatum. And that ultimatum is pretty simple. Voluntarily dismantle your nuclear enterprise completely. And that means give up the enriched uranium, destroy the facilities that make the advanced centrifuges that enable that enriched uranium, destroy the ballistic missiles that would deliver the weapon systems, open Iran to anywhere, anytime inspections, and do it all by a date certain. So what we should be discussing with the Iranians is not how much enriched uranium they're going to have, because you cannot permit Iran to have any enriched uranium whatsoever.
Tonight, we hear from the Maryland senator who met face-to-face with the mistakenly deported Maryland man being held in El Salvador.
They haven't told him anything about what he was saying. They didn't tell him anything about that.
The senator giving details about where Kilmar Abrego Garcia is being held, what the senator is now saying about his treatment and mission to get him back to the U.S., all while President Trump insists he will never be allowed back. And tonight, the new video showing the alleged gunman, the stepson of a deputy, opening fire. 2 people killed, 6 wounded. One survivor describing the terror, playing dead after being wounded, the moment she was afraid of being shot again.
All I can think of is what my mom and dad always told me to do during an active shooter drill. Stay down, play dead. So I released all the muscles in my body, closed my eyes, and I held my breath.
A $30 million lottery winner gone under mysterious circumstances, and there are no shortages of suspects. Tonight, a sneak peek at the special 2020 Unlucky Numbers.
Up at him, and I looked at the ticket again, and I looked up at him. I said, you won $30 million.
It's been a landmark week for those seeking the answer to one of humanity's existential questions. Are we alone? We're joined by the lead researcher who came out with the earth-shattering new findings about life outside of our planet. And 3 months after those deadly and devastating Los Angeles wildfires, nature and animals are slowly but surely coming back. The Star Wars surprise, the major star confirming the rumors in person, is joining the franchise.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Betsy Ross.
Good morning. A week of record migrant crossings with 113 more arriving just last night.
So the total this week, 2,122. That's just this week, as the number of migrants is up 43% on last year.
So what's happened to the PM's pledge to smash the gangs?
Are going to drive down migration, both legal and illegal. That will only be done with a serious plan.
Meanwhile, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, makes the case for closer ties with China as she heads to Washington for a trade deal, which begs the question, do we need to pick a side, either the US or China?
It's one of the busiest travel weekends of the year. People are being warned to plan ahead, though, with workers at Gatwick on strike and roads at their busiest.
To see if we can get it done. I think we have a really good chance of getting it done, and it's coming to a head right now.
President Trump suggests the US could abandon peace talks between Ukraine and Russia because he's growing frustrated with the lack of progress, wanting to get the deal done this week.
Shopkeepers fight back over changes to national insurance as independent retailers battle to keep afloat.
Victory for the pubs. They'll be allowed to stay open to 1 a.m. to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day next month to celebrate our veterans.
The Championship is where it's at, with Leeds and Burnley putting themselves within touching distance of a return to the Premier League yesterday. And we'll find out why snooker legend Ronnie O'Sullivan is suffering stage fright ahead of the World Championships at the Crucible.
Looking for some sunshine for your Easter activities? Join me later to find out which day this weekend will be driest for you.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
This is Asia Hour.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Angela Lim at the South. An Iranian delegation is now in Rome for a second round of nuclear talks with the U.S. as the UN watchdog warns Tehran is close to producing a nuclear weapon. U.S. leaders stressing they could abandon a push for peace between Russia and Ukraine if there's no progress. President Trump echoes his secretaries of state, saying his administration will move on if no deal is reached soon to end the war.
If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that.
And the ceasefire between the military and rebels in Myanmar extended as Malaysia brokers an agreement to bring in more aid to help victims of last month's devastating earthquake. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has arrived in Rome for the second round of nuclear talks with the US. Both countries are seeking to resolve their decades-long standoff over Tehran's atomic aims. While Iran says a deal is possible if the US is realistic, President Donald Trump remains firm in denying Tehran any nuclear weapons.
I'm for stopping Iran, very simply, from having a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
So
I want Iran to be great and prosperous and terrific. I stopped them once they were broke and they didn't have any money for Hamas, they didn't have any money for Hezbollah, there wouldn't have been an October 7th disaster, they were broke.
Iran has laid out its red line, saying
ABC iNews, always free, always informative.
Today, a fisherman drowns after being swept out to sea in New South Wales, bringing the death toll to 5 along the east coast this Easter.
Many people are in fact already holidaying along the coastline. Surf Life Saving is saying stay away from the beach, make other plans.
Also ahead, a 6-year-old boy found safe and well after spending a frightening night alone in Melbourne's Dandenong Ranges.
Thank God that we were able to find him. That's just miraculous, yeah.
huge roller coaster of emotions, but obviously it's ended with such an incredible story.
Family and friends fear for their safety after the kidnapping and suspected murder of a Sydney mother, leaving a child in a coma. And Donald Trump says the US could walk away from brokering peace talks in Ukraine unless he sees rapid progress on a deal. Hello, welcome to ABC News. I'm Selena Edmonds. There's been another drowning this Easter weekend with a rock fisherman swept out to sea at Tathra on the New South Wales far south coast this morning. It is the 5th drowning across the country this Easter long weekend. In Victoria, a search resumed this morning for a man feared drowned when 3 Chinese nationals were washed into the ocean by a powerful wave yesterday at San Remo. 1 woman drowned and another was rescued. In Sydney, a major search has resumed to locate a swimmer missing off Little Bay Beach. The CEO of Royal Lifesaving Australia, Justin Scarr, says people should stay out of the water for their own safety today.
It's a really horrific time, and certainly Easter, we've been drumming messages across the community about just how drowning risk increases during Easter. Yesterday was unusual. There was significant swell right across the coastline from Victoria all the way up to Queensland. The incidents that we've seen of people falling into the water, so no one was swimming, people were caught by surprise. The rock.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Welcome back to the programme. You're watching Daybreak on France 24. My name's Peter O'Brien, and these are the headlines. Donald Trump threatens to abandon Ukraine if a peace deal is not struck soon, throwing cold water on the progress made in Paris. Envoys from the US and Iran head to Rome for a second round of indirect talks on a new nuclear deal. And the race between humans and robots is very much real. Yes, that's right, the world's first humanoid robot half marathon took place in Beijing. Stay tuned to find out who won. But first, let's start with Donald Trump's assault on his perceived political rivals domestically. He's threatened to cut off the tax-exempt status of environmental groups and a top ethics watchdog, with a decision pending on Harvard University's tax status as well. Ramping up the pressure, the Department of Education has sent Harvard a request for a list of all foreign gifts, grants and contracts. The administration already froze nearly $2 billion in grants and loans for the Ivy League university after it refused to change activism, anti-Semitism and diversity policies. Well, Ellen Kuntz is a professor at the INSEAD Business School here in France and dean of the finance department there.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. On today's show, we're talking about misogyny and sexism in the classroom and why teachers are worried it's on the rise.
And it's another crucial weekend of Premier League football with two of the in-form sides going head-to-head in the race for Champions League places.
It's Easter Saturday, 19th of April, coming up. Teachers claim that social media influencers like Andrew Tate are fueling a rise in misogyny and sexism in British classrooms. A change to how some death certificates are issued is impacting bereaved families as they wait up to 8 weeks for a funeral. A boost for Labour's plans to send failed asylum seekers abroad after backing from the UN's refugee agency.
And Leeds on the brink of a return to the Premier League after a narrow win over Oxford United.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on The Breakfast Show. Social media influencers.
The news. Tidjane Thiam, a former Credit Suisse CEO, won a near unanimous vote to represent the Democratic Party of Ivory Coast in an upcoming presidential election, the party announced on Friday. Thiam won 99.5% of the vote and ran unopposed for the nomination. He is the current president of the party. Ouattara won in 2020 after a disputed election left dozens dead and opposition candidates boycotted the election. Ivory Coast is set to hold the vote in October.
In January of 2024, Uganda's Supreme Court delivered a ruling that bans the military from trying civilians. That decision forced the government to transfer the trial of opposition politician and former presidential candidate Kizza Besigye to civilian courts. The veteran political rival of President Museveni had been convicted for illegal possession of firearms, among other offences. Charges his lawyers say are politically motivated. Over a year later, Besigye could be facing military prosecutors once again. The Ugandan government says it plans to introduce a law that would allow civilians accused of specific offences to be put on trial in tribunals run by the army. The draft is now awaiting green light from the cabinet before it's introduced in parliament. Human rights groups and opposition figures are sounding the alarm over the legislation. They fear the government will use the law to target political opponents and stifle dissent.
In Tehran, Iran's regular army held its annual parade Friday to mark National Army Day, showcasing missiles, drones and military hardware in a display of strength. The event highlights the country's conventional military distinct from the powerful Revolutionary Guard, which operates throughout the region. In air, on ground and at sea, in drones and other necessary equipment that the enemy didn't even think of. Our military forces have managed to acquire necessary technology. With tensions mounting and uranium enrichment nearing weapons-grade levels, Iran has issued warnings about its nuclear capabilities. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has threatened potential airstrikes if no agreement is reached, raising stakes for both sides as nearly 5 decades of hostility hang in the balance.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye bye.